Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this interview. Today I have a long-time real estate investor and mentor, Cliff Gager, on the line with us. Cliff have an amazing, track record, as well as not only doing it for himself, but also do it for students all around the country and teaching new investors how to get started and how to make offers that gets agents be on their side and get sellers to accept their offers. So let's welcome Cliff. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today, buddy.
Hey Tim, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, Cliff, take us back. So I know you've been in the mortgage business for a while. What had you interested in getting over to the real estate investing side?
Well, when I first started in the business, and I'll do the Reader's Digest version so it's not too long. Basically, I came from construction background and got into the mortgage business kind of by accident. And what happened was, as I was trying to do real estate mortgages, being so young and new in the business, nobody wanted to do business with me because I didn't have any experience and I was really, really young. So I ended up doing mortgages for a couple of investors on their end users. So the people that they were selling the houses to after they fixed it all up. And so I also went through the big refi craze, so I really knew what I was doing. I did hundreds and hundreds of loans. But the cool thing that got me into real estate was watching these two separate investors. They were different guys and the different ways that they were doing things. But I was in charge of everything. I had the money. I was representing the lender that was closing these transactions. So I knew the intricacies of the deal and the financing and the appraisals and all the things that make the deal come together in the end. So I was sitting there one day and I'm looking at the closing statement, and literally I realized all I needed to do was sit in his seat. Just change seats, because I was structuring the deal. I was doing everything except the repairs and making the offers on the purchase. But I was helping them with their buyers, so I pre-qualified all their buyers, and we put people in there that were qualified and they were ready to go. And so closings for us in those days, FHA was taking 3 to 6 months to do a loan. We were doing my best time back then was 19 days to do a complete FHA loan.
That's super fast.
It was crazy. But we did a lot of things beforehand, before going under contract. So that made a lot of things different. But like I said, I was doing really well. Trust me, I was doing really well in the mortgage business. But he was making $20,000, $30,000 a house. So what I did was like I said, I looked at the closing statement. I'm like, my God, I can do this myself and pick up an extra 20 grand. So that's what I did. I started working. I also did their hard money loans, so I knew where their sources were as far as the money, as far as the purchases. So I just went to the money investors and I says, hey, I want to do this myself. And they says, not a problem. I went to the sellers where they were getting the properties, and they're like, yeah, we'll sell to you. We don't care. And I started doing deals, and it's math. As long as the math is all correct and it's all working, getting the things done and the oversight of doing the repairs and doing the acquisition, doing the repairs, and then doing the sales process, it's all numbers. And if you do the numbers correctly, it will always work out to your favor. And I just learned that you make your money in the beginning when you buy the property, and you see your profits when you sell it. And a lot of people kind of do it backwards. They try to make the profits appear that aren't really there.
Right.
So as I did it, I did it in St. Pete, Florida, and when I started out, we did 248 houses in 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Because we didn't know we couldn't do that.
I love that.
But I went from there and I built a mortgage business. I built a real estate office and was doing really well. And then, the roller coaster part, where we came down was I had a divorce, and that's a mess. And we don't even talk about that anymore. But I ended up in the seminar business and by accident, and I got to help thousands of people do what I did. And it's really simple and easy. The methods that I use are very easy to understand and very easy to implement. And it's just, it's been great. I mean, I've been honestly, I've been blessed to be in the position that I'm in. And I'm really grateful for that,
That's awesome. So, from those 200 something deals, what were the bulk of those deals? Like, what type of deals were they? Where did you find them?
Well, most of them, it was in that time period was in the 90s, going from, I would say 92 to 97, in that range there. So most of those properties were the fallout from the late 80s with the high interest rates and just foreclosures. I did a lot of bank-owned properties, but I also did properties where people were just in trouble, and they needed to get out. So I have done the pre-foreclosure type scenarios where I've done some, gosh, I wish I could go back in time, because I would assume every FHA $45 assumable non-qualifying loan out there. I'd have 1 million of them right now.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
But so I've done a couple of those. And then a lot of estates, people were dying to give me houses. I shouldn't say that, but people pass away. They don't have wills. They have heirs that didn't live nearby, so those houses were listed. They were usually museums for the 50s, because they still had the avocado green and all the weird colors and gold foil wallpaper with red velvet. Remember that? So those houses nobody wanted to buy because they had to completely fix them up. So I'd come in with a cash offer and the heirs would just fall all over it. And then I'd go in and rehab it and we'd sell it. So various locations or sources of getting properties. I don't knock on doors anymore because I just feel that I personally don't want to do that. So I like to have other people do the work for me. That's why I tend to go for the listed properties and using my methods on listed properties, because most people try to sell their house through the MLS.
Gotcha. So which brings me to the next question that I was going to ask is that what type of lead generation that's working best for you and your students right now? Where are you guys finding deals right now?
In the MLS, there's a lot of deals. It's the shiny object syndrome. Okay, everybody loves a brand new shiny thing. So when a house comes out in the very beginning as a listing, and it's a investor type property that needs an investor to buy it, everybody runs to it. And because everybody runs to it, maybe it gets picked up or they have multiple offers. So there's a lot of action and activity around it. So the sellers are overconfident that, we don't need to, take a low price right now because we've got all this activity. And those deals fall out of escrow because, number one, you can't pay that much for a house, put that much money into it, and then realize no profits because we're not charity. We are a for-profit enterprise. And so when sometimes they fall out of escrow, I have a system that follows those properties as far as timelines. So we do that. There's a method that I use for that. And a lot of times when I owned a real estate office, so one of the things I learned was how to get listings for my agents, what would be a good source. So going after expired listings that have been on the market a long time, not chasing ambulances, but watching to see if there's any proceedings in courthouses, divorce, what do they call it? Divorce, bankruptcy, all of those typical, estates, when people, die and they go into probate. Those are all aspects of where you can find things, and you have to do all of them. And I found that you might get 1 or 2 a year from this method, and you might get 1 or 2 a year from this method, or you might get 3 or 4 from this other method. And people tend to focus in on one, and there's all these deals over here, and they miss them. So it's being broad and painting with a broad brush, I guess, would be the simple source. But mostly, I'd say 90% through the MLS.
Okay, and when you say through the MLS, what type of listings on the MLS do you go after? Is it strictly REOs? Is it, I guess what terms are you searching for?
Well, no, and see, that's the big surprise, and this is hilarious. I actually talk about this a lot. Somewhere out there, in the middle of the day is when Jerry Springer is on TV. Okay, the Jerry Springer show. Yeah. And
I can't believe it's still going on.
That guy has made $1 billion from that show.
Holy cow.
But anyways, there's people that are watching that. And if you watch the commercials are all geared towards getting a new education. So there's like, you can be a vet assistant. You can be a records keeper, for a dental office, or a dental hygienist. And they also run all the ads for attorneys, personal injury attorneys and divorce attorneys, because these people are sitting home and they have an issue. They have a problem. We don't know what it is. It's not painted on a sign out in front of the house, but we know people go through situations all the time. Right. So if it's in a great economy, there's people that are having problems. If it's in a bad economy, there's people that are having problems. Right. And there's also people that thrive on the opposite ends of those as well. So what I've learned from that, it's kind of a psychology play, is don't assume somebody will do something. I put an offer on a house in Pasadena, California. Mm-hmm. It was worth $2.2 million. The guy said on the phone, make me an offer, make me an offer, make me an offer. I mean, he was begging me to make him an offer. And in my brain, I assumed that he would never take $500,000 for it, right?
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't think that either, right?
Yeah.
So I cut it in half, and I said, how about $927,500? And he says, you've got a deal.
Wow.
So, and at closing, don't ask him what the bottom line was, because you really don't want to know at that point in time.
Oh, my God.
But he told me all he needed was $400,000.
What? Wow.
I could have bought the house for $400,000, but I assumed that he wouldn't have taken less than that, so I offered $927,500 because I assumed he wouldn't have taken less than that. So I've learned to not presume what somebody's going to do and just make my honey badger offer, which I don't care. If you don't like it, it's okay. I don't care. Because you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what trouble they're in. You don't know what situation they're in. You see on TV all the time that there's some guy bought a, $2 million classic car from an angry divorced wife, for $20. Because nobody believed it, nobody called the ad, but this one guy did, and he just gave her $20. And stuff like that happens all the time. And you have to be lucky to find those kind of things. So put yourself in that lucky position is what I've done all my life, is put yourself in that position where you don't think that they're going to do it, but you try it anyways, because you'll be surprised at the results.
Okay. So you don't go based on keywords. Do you even filter based on like asking price versus the value at all?
Yeah, I'm great at. I'm glad you're great at keeping me on track here, because I have so much in my head it just all flows. But yeah, so some of the keywords, I'll give you some keywords. Is the typical ones: bank owned, needs fix up, handyman special, needs TLC. do there, there's two sets of remarks, right? There's remarks that the public can see,
Right.
and there's remarks that only real estate agents can see.
Right.
So do not disturb tenants is a great one, because if they have a situation where they have renters in there and they're selling the property, that means that it's probably not producing. So maybe there's issues with it. So because the landlord is selling the, and it might have things, reduced price for quick sale, all those typical things. But I've found that rental properties that are owned by people that list them in the MLS, and they're competitively priced or maybe below offer, below retail pricing, the person has an assumption in their mind of what they'll take, and we don't know what that is, and neither does the agents. They don't know. So the key word is if the property isn't producing and they're wanting to sell it, why? Well, I don't care why. I just make my offer and let it unfold. Mm-hmm. I did that with a student of mine. He bought a property, or he was in negotiations on a property in Ohio, and the investor just wanted to get rid of it. He was in his 60s. He was done. He had invested in other things, and he didn't want to deal with this property anymore. And what came out of it was 49 units were single-family homes.
Wow.
He had 49 of them that he was trying to dump.
That's awesome.
And my student bought them all.
Wow.
And my student didn't have any money, and the guy financed them. It was like...
Nice.
So now, the guy's still making his money. He doesn't have to deal with the property anymore. But we found that in the MLS through a remarks that said, do not disturb the tenants. Some of the other things that you'll find that are absolutely amazing as far as results is, subject to somebody's approval, so it could be a court, could be a trustee. So I always just use the word subject to in the remarks search, because the agents don't know how to market properly. They don't do Google AdWords and keywords and stuff like that. They just put what's in their brain. So you have to kind of think, what would the agent say if it was subject to court approval? Oh, they're going to write in there, all offers are subject to court approval. So if you put subject to in there, it picks those up. It could be subject to trustee, subject to heirs, approval.
Yeah, subject to short sales from bank. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be a subject to deal, and which we don't see that much anymore. But, like wraps and stuff, there's people out there that want to do that. So I found that works very good, along with the normal everyday things. But I think the key thing that you're trying to get out of me is where are the deals? The deals are in the timeline. The longer a property sits, the more that somebody's willing to get rid of it. The more problems there are with the property, the more they're likely to just walk away. I kind of have to take myself out of the I'm a nice guy kind of realm and just let the things fall where they are. I make my offer. I'm comfortable with my offer. If they accept it, it's great. If they don't, it's great. I can negotiate up a little bit. But I never feel bad for, like, quote, taking advantage of somebody, because I make an offer. It's up to them to accept it.
Right.
And, I didn't create their situation. So if they have a house that's, the roof is gone and there's vagrants living in the house, they have a situation, and I didn't cause that. So right. I kind of take advantage of it a little bit, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. So you talk about this honey badger sort of methodology or technique.
Yeah.
Share with us about that. What does that mean? And how do we apply that into this business?
Everybody's like, well, what's a honey badger? Well, if you look it up online, it's a weasel skunk-like animal, which you don't want to be a weasel in this business, right? But the joke is somebody a couple years ago did a video of a honey badger, and he did a voiceover of it, and it's kind of got some bad language in it, but it's really funny. And it's basically, the honey badger doesn't care. if he wants to eat a cobra, he just goes and beats a cobra up and eats them, and if he wants to eat honey, he just goes right into the beehive. He doesn't care if he's going to get stung. He just goes in and does it. And somebody said to me at one time, it says, Cliff, you're like the honey badger of real estate. And I didn't know what the honey badger was. So I went and looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't care if you like my offer. I don't care if you call me a bottom feeder and a grave dancer. I don't care if you call me ugly because you were insulted because my offer was too low. I sleep very good at night knowing my offer was a real offer and I can produce on it.
Right.
If you don't like that, I don't care, because if you're in this business to be liked, I don't think everybody, we're kind of like car salesmen, nobody likes a car salesman, but you go to them to buy a car, So if you're going to be a real estate investor, you're not here. Realtors tell me all the time, oh, I can't put that offer in. I will get, shunned in my community. And I'm like, well, do you work for the community or do you work for me? So I don't care. So if you go in with that attitude and they say, go pound sand, I don't care. It's my attitude is the same no matter what. So when we do get a deal put together, it's exciting. I mean, it's like a victory. It's like you just won a real estate marathon, So the honey badger style is you go in with a preset scenario that you do that we know is going to produce certain outcomes, and we have the answers and we're prepared for those outcomes. And when you go in knowing that, it makes it a lot easier to get results out of it. And I'll be honest with you, the vast majority of results are them telling you to go pound sand, but they're not going to say that 90 days from now. So that's another aspect of bringing in the older listings, the property that have been sitting around for a long time, the issue properties that have, major issues, and they're sitting there and sitting there. So going back to that shiny object syndrome, all the other investors have walked away and said, well, we can't put an offer in and get it accepted, then we're not going to go back there again. I go back there again.
Gotcha.
Because I don't care.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
I call them up and I say, hey, you remember me? And they're like, of course we remember you. You're that bottom feeder. I'm like, well, do you want to sell it now?
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
How do you get an agent? I know you mentioned about, like, do you work for the community or do you work for me, right?
Right.
How do you talk to an agent and get them to understand and be on your side, and not mind making these kind of offers?
Believe it or not, the one thing that works the best is the Jerry Springer story. The fact that person sitting on the couch watching that TV that day has an issue. They have a problem. Not to say that all people watching Jerry Springer's have a problem. I like watching it because it makes my day better because I realize I'm not on Jerry Springer, right? But somebody has a situation and we don't know what it is because it's not written on their forehead. So the aspect of making an offer, presumably according to the way all realtors do it, is you have this method that you must do these things. And when you show them that the must doesn't have to be done, that you can do it this way, my way, and it works on psychology, you don't know if that guy is sitting there on that couch that day and saying, you know what? Whoever comes in the door next and makes an offer on the house, I'm just letting it go because I need to move on with my life.
Right.
And it kind of rings a bell. It's like, oh, wow. Have you ever been? I know I have been in a situation. I went through a divorce, okay, and it was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want anything. I'll walk away from everything because I want the pain to stop. And, nobody knew that. Nobody knew that about me. And when that occurred, except, maybe a small circle of friends, but on the general public, nobody knew. And they didn't know or see my, what is it? When you do that kind of thing.
Facade.
Yeah. So when you understand that as a realtor and you say, well, they rejected an offer 3 months ago that was higher than yours. But what are they looking at today? 3 months of pain added to that scenario, and they're trying to move on with their life. They're trying to move on with whatever it is that they got to do next. So don't assume, there's that word again, what they're going to do. Just make the offer. And you already have no. We already have the answer no.
Right.
So, I mean, how insulted can you be when they tell you no again? Or how excited can you be when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they took that.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, I could have offered less.
Right. Yeah, it's awesome that you explain it that way, because I've been in a situation where, I have a property, it's sitting there on the market. And just like what you said in the beginning, when I'm getting a bunch of offers, I'm like, I want to hold out for a better offer. And next thing you know, I have nobody else making offers. And it's like, I got to move on.
And then they just disappear.
Yeah.
Nobody comes and even looks at it for a month or 2 months. And you're like, oh my God, what do we do? And the realtor's answer is, oh, we have to do a price reduction. Well, we're $10,000 under market already. It's because everybody has seen it and it's not new and shiny anymore.
Right.
So, if somebody came along and made you an offer and it gets you out of the deal, because you're bleeding.
Yeah.
The longer it sits, the more you bleed. So, if it's been sitting for 3 or 4 months with an investor or a bank, and I mean, don't even get into the bank side of it. I mean, they don't need the money. They got a portfolio of 50,000 houses. They're going to lose money on one house and cry about it.
Yeah.
But the real think that they are. They think, oh my God, they can't take a hit on that. Why? They just made $40,000 on the house over here and $100,000 on this one. If they lose $10,000 on this one, it's at the bottom of a ledger sheet. They don't even know it.
Right.
So it's assumptions. It's
right.
People make assumptions.
And is it 3 months, like 120 days? No, 90 days on market is where you focus more on those type of properties, or what's the time frame?
No, I don't make assumptions. I look for the keywords like we were talking about earlier, and I try to buy situations. So look up the situations. If they're listed brand new, I'll look at them, make an offer like everybody else is, probably get shunned, and then it goes into a tickler file. A tickler file, if you don't know what one is, I always tell people to just look it up online. It's file folders,
old school
according to the calendar. Yeah, So, if today, what's today? Today's
the 12th.
What is the date? The 12th. On the 12th, it would be a 12 folder in the file cabinet if you did it, manually, which works the best, by the way.
That's how I started real estate investing. That with the tickler file system.
Yes, it works.
Yep.
It's been working for me for 25 years. So if I put an offer in today on the 12th, automatically in 10 days, I'm going to go back again. And I'm going to say, how'd that work out? Did it go into escrow? Did it not? And of course, they're not going to tell you, but you got to pull that out of them. You got to find out, well, I know you can't tell me if it's going to close, but do you think it's going to close? Just ask them. And I found it's funny. If you ask somebody 3 times, they're going to tell you. It's weird. Just keep asking them the same question, but word it a little bit different, because
on the same phone call or on a different phone call?
On the same phone call. Yeah, I'll like this. Hey, I know you can't tell me, so you're qualifying it, right? And but I put an offer on this about 10 days ago, and you said you accepted an offer. How's the offer looking? Does it look like it's going to close? And they're going to like, well, we can't tell you that. Well, I know you can't tell me that, but in your opinion, do you think it's going to go to closing, or do you think it's going to end up back on the market? And they're well, adamantly, I'm sorry, we can't give out any details. Well, I know you can't give out any details, but if you were to bet, would you think that you would win the bet if it was going to close, or lose the bet if it's not going to close? And they say, well, it's probably going to end up back on the market. And I'm like, fantastic. Would you like to put my offer in as a backup?
I love that. I like that.
It's being persistent. And like I said, the honey badger goes in, he just doesn't care, and he just keeps going until he gets what he wants.
Awesome. All right, Cliff. I'm sure that the listeners now really love to reach out to you, learn more from you, connect with you, do some business with you. Where would you like to send them? realestateexpertonline.com. I have a webinar
that I do, and it explains the honey badger method of real estate. And when you go there, there's a real quick video. I introduce myself because a lot of people don't know who I am because I've been behind the curtain for so long. And you register for the webinar, then watch, pick a time when you want to watch the webinar. And I actually teach the honey badger offer method of how the offer goes through. It's really good and thorough on the explanation of what other people are doing and what I do and why it's different and why it works.
That's awesome.
And it's really good webinar because I teach you how to do it. It's not one of these, I'm going to show you a little secret and then I want a lot of money from you. I actually teach you how to do that method, and then I want a little bit of money out of you too. So I mean, if you want more training, there's more training available, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's awesome. All right, Cliff, thank you so much, sir, for doing this awesome interview with me. It's been a real fun, and yeah, I just love your honey badger methodology of approaching this business, right? And for sure, the listeners, if they take that on, that mentality on, they're gonna be extremely successful in this business. And so
I think so.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
I appreciate your time, and thanks for the interview. I really enjoyed it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you reach out to Cliff, learn more from him, do some business with him. And with that, happy investing, and we'll see you on the next interview. All right, bye, everyone.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.